We're back from our travels from last weekend, and the next thing that we're going to do is build some overhead cupboards here and try and build them in a similar way to these ones, albeit a bit more slender because they're going to be above where the sofa is. I decided to cut the bottom of the cabinet first, cut it to length, then width, and then for my design, cutting out an angle at the end for a smaller and shallower shelf. This shelf's going to be attached to the van via some M6 bolts and riv nuts that I installed earlier in the build. So these were drilled out and this upright was screwed through into the shelf itself using self-tapping screws. I wanted inset LED lighting in the bottom of my shelf, so I used a 25mm router bit to route this out. Now that the bottom is cut to size and the LED strip is routed out, I drilled out a 14cm hole ready for a speaker. So I decided to do this now because it's just easier than doing it when it's in the vehicle, drilling through one side and then the other side for a neat hole. Inside I had some wiring to move, so I did that at this stage too. At this stage I'd realised that I was running low on 15mm plywood. For now I'm going to try and make do. So I found an offcut of poplar that I'm going to make 2 of the dividers from, which is lighter, so that's handy. For the top piece I'm going to make it from 18mm hardwood plywood, so when the cupboard's open you'll be able to see that it's not birch, but if I didn't tell you, probably not. If you can't find it, grind it, I guess. Crikey Moses. And the shelf here I've made thinner because it's going to be above where the girls sit when we're in transit, so I don't want them to bash their heads. So I'm going to get on to scribing these down now. I need 3 of them. Just for fun, count how many times I have to scribe this to get the first one right. Once I did have this right, I could draw around it and use it as a template to make 2 others, and then cut this out with the jigsaw and then made sure that they fitted. You can see here that I left an even gap at the back of each of the cutouts. This is for cables to pass through at a later time. I'm going to support the top with some hardwood plywood, but to do that I do need to notch out the middle piece. The end pieces are just going to be joined with pocket screws. Once I had that right, it was simply a case of aligning the pieces and then sanding back before assembly. So I like to do this before assembly wherever I can because it just makes it easier to get in all of the nooks and crannies. The method of putting it together I'm going to use is pocket holes and a bit of wood glue. So I'm just putting the pocket holes in now. So this is for the top piece. Bearing in mind that it will screw through from the top, so you won't see them once it's in the bus, and that way they're going down into the wood as well. If you did them the other way, they'd be accessible from in the bus, but you'd be actually going up and out of the wood. Learned that the hard way. So I'm going to put a couple in each of these and these, and that will be what screws it down into the base. And then actually I'm going to put a screw up from where we've recessed out for the light up into there as well, so you've got screws basically going in both directions, up and down, just to keep it all right and tight. The top piece was actually screwed through the top into the middle piece as well, with the pocket screws going into the end pieces as you can see here, and then I actually managed to screw it through from the back as well. So I've got screws going in from the top, in from the back, and then I've got the pocket holes holding it in place as well. Let me show you what we've got here. So we've installed it with nice long hex head bolts all the way along. I think there's 9 mounting points there. We've got 3 in the ceiling, and then it is screwed through into this end cabinet as well, and it's solid. So at the end here, because it's unsupported apart from at the back, what I'm going to do, so get some of that wire rope, attach it on the end here up to here where there is a metal pillar, and then that will just give that a little bit more support. So a couple of things just left to do in here, but that is the frame done. Okay, so I managed to get hold actually of some more 15mm plywood. I'm going to make the doors up for those today. I've got a couple of other things to tidy up in here because there is a control panel for our IMAS and the speaker that's there. So I'm going to make a little mount for the iMass. Including this speaker, we now have 7 in the bus. This is simply screwed in underneath and mimics the one on the other side. I managed to get hold of a 24mm piece of birch plywood, cut out the centre, and then I had myself a surface mount for the iMass. This way I can cut the cable out the back, can take it in and out whenever I like, and it looks nice and neat. Some 15mm plywood was cut to make 2 identical doors. I'm going to use the jig, the Craig jig that I have for my brackets. So I'm just marking up the orientation of this, mark on the back in pencil the side that I want to put these, and I'm just going to measure them out, and then we can sand it back, oil it, and then install them in the van.
Ooh, it looks nice.
We opted for some 180-degree front-faced hinges, so that means that our doors will sit in front of the unit, leaving an even gap at the top. I then used a pair of pressure-operated cabinet supports that hold the doors open once you've lifted them up. These are really sturdy and dead simple to install. Just check that the iMass heater was working, which it was, and this was the end result of our new overhead storage.